else.
Hi, I'm Judy, and I'm here with Justina. She's the owner of Your Friend in Paris.
What she said. Thank you so much for finding the time to meet with me today and to have this chat.
Anytime.
Amazing. So we've known each other for
A few years.
a few years now.
Yeah.
Since you came here. So, what was the first thought? What made you first consider retiring abroad, like abroad in general?
You know, I wanted a different quality of life, a different lifestyle. I wanted to, experience different cultures away from the United States. I traveled in Europe years ago and really wanted to get back to that and just live a different life.
And did you consider other countries other than France?
Initially, I was open to other countries, but once I started doing research, France was it. And I'd always had a pull to Paris in a really strange way. So it just felt like that was where I wanted to be.
Okay, so it was Paris.
Yep, it was Paris.
And when you decided, okay, so I'm going to retire in Paris, what were the first things that you did? What was the research that you did? Like, how did you start the process?
It was probably a little before COVID. I had started thinking about eventually when I retired, what that was going to look like. And I knew I wanted to be overseas. So that's when I started doing my research and then kind of dialed down and looked at different expat websites, different groups on Facebook for anybody moving abroad, Americans mainly, and found some good groups for people moving to France and retirees here in France, and started going through those groups and all their posts and seeing, what kinds of questions were out there and kind of what did maybe the process look like, because I had no idea. And then started asking questions, and then through some of those websites and just Google, finding answers, and then kind of, okay, I'm going to go here and look at this website.
And through this process, what was, in your opinion, the most valuable resource that you used?
It was just some of the different Facebook groups. There's some groups for American retirees in France, Americans abroad in France. There was a group strictly just for women who were looking to relocate, because that looks a little different when you're a single female. And that had a lot of helpful information. And there was somebody through that did a whole class as far as what to look for, things to think about if you plan to relocate, all the, what you're going to need and what are things to consider when looking at different countries.
So it looks like you did a lot of preparation, due diligence, research. You had a lot of knowledge. So what made you finally decide to look for help, to hire a relocation agency? Us. Not us, but relocation agency in general. Like, look for help. Because it looks like you knew everything.
No, I mean, looking at one point, I thought maybe I did, but I definitely didn't. But it was through reading some of the posts in some of the expat groups, forums, where people would say, hey, I'm looking at moving, but how do I get an apartment? Like, what do I do? And people would say, oh, there's different companies that will help you and assist you with the whole process. And I was like, yeah, because I can't just move if I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't want to move and then have to move again.
Yeah.
So that was something to consider. And how does that look? Like, how do I find an apartment? And it was through a lot of those posts and people that had already been through the process of moving and kind of what the ups and downs were. It kept coming up. People said, you need to find an agency, somebody, that you can work with that's going to help you with all of these things, from finding an apartment to, getting your visa squared away, to your driver's license, to your health care, all these things that I would not have had any knowledge of how to do. So once it's like, yeah, I need some help. Then I started looking, I looked at some other agencies, but I just didn't, I didn't necessarily kind of feel like any connection. And when I contacted you and talked to you the first time, on Zoom, whatever it was, we really connected, and I felt like you understood and you got me. And we're very relatable.
Yes.
And I kind of felt like, wow, I can really do this. You put it in terms where I understood it.
Okay.
And where it made sense to me, and where it was kind of like, wow, this is possible. Because you always have that in the back of your mind when you're starting this. Am I going to be able to do this?
Yes.
Is it doable? And after I talked to you, I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to move. I can't wait. Like, this is going to happen.
Yes. So we have all been through a relocation ourselves. So yes, that's why we feel relatable. Thank you so much. So what were your expectations about your retirement in France? In general, what were your expectations for retiring in Paris?
I imagined my life to be a lot calmer, a lot healthier, and just, I guess, maybe more adventurous.
Okay.
I was done with the working part of my life. And it was now time to do what I wanted to do. And sometimes that could mean getting up and being busy all day and going places and going to museums and different things. Or some days, in the Paris winter when it's cold and rainy outside,
Yes.
just staying home and doing some writing or something. I just wanted a better lifestyle and felt that this was the place to do it. I had always felt very calm in Paris.
Yeah.
And felt like this was home. The decision to retire, I was actually on Boulevard Saint-Germain in the sunshine, in the fall, and I thought, I don't feel stressed, I'm happy, I'm not wearing a watch, like life is good. And I thought, this is how I want my life to be every day. And that's when I made the decision to retire. And when I went back from vacation, announced that in about 8 months I'd be leaving. And I did.
Okay.
So
you were making these plans in your head. What was your biggest fear about retiring in France? And if you can continue on that question, how did it play out?
My biggest fear was language. That was one of the top ones. I had French years and years ago, and I can read and understand more than I was able to speak and comprehend, listening wise. And that was a big fear. I'm moving to a country where my expectation was I need to learn to speak the language. Even if there are people that speak English here, you're in another country, and the expectation should be that you learn the language of where you're living.
Yeah.
And so that was a little, that was a fear. And the fear of just, picking up and moving my entire life to a new country where I didn't know people and where I was basically starting all over later in life. I wasn't 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, those were big, big fears. How to, I think the desire to have a really higher quality of life, and to just be able to explore it. In the back of my mind, I thought, if I'm not happy and things don't work out, I can always go back.
Yes.
But I have to put 100% in. And so those fears, when I first moved, it was, kind of a culture shock and a little bit overwhelming, no matter how prepared you are, when reality sets in.
Yeah.
The language, my French in 2.5 years has come a lot further. And now I'm every day kind of picking up things a whole lot easier. People understand me more often. I can go places and feel confident and know that I am continually learning more and more. So I think that helps. So that's been an ongoing process. So I'm kind of like, it's not a fear anymore.
Yeah.
I think even, picking up and moving your life, making friends. And now after 2.5 years, I've started making friends and I have friends. So, now it's kind of like, oh, hey, let's go do this, or let's go do that. And so that fear of, oh my gosh, what is this going to be like, has kind of, in time has just kind of gone away. And, there's always going to be things that, you're going to, sometimes you're going to have those days where things just don't go well. And you ask yourself, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then you get up and the sun's shining and you go for a walk down on the Seine and life is good. And you can't picture yourself anywhere else. So it's just overcoming those fears, dig yourself in. And if this is really where you want to be, then you're going to do it.
Now, with all the experiences you had, what would you say was the hardest part of your relocation?
The hardest part was probably not realizing all the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
With every process here.
Yeah.
From navigating the healthcare system to renewing, at the end of your first year, getting your carte de séjour, carte de titre, and how that works, and even the year after that, because you have to go online and present the same documents, and just working with the different systems.
What were the biggest challenges of moving to France that you did not anticipate?
The biggest challenges, I think, were just day-to-day living, and the fact that if you don't have a good grasp of the language, simple things like shopping can be a little bit of a challenge at times. If you get sick and you have to go to the hospital, dealing with the healthcare system and doctors when you are sick, and trying to, explain things and understand what they're saying. I think those are...
This is a completely different vocabulary, a completely different language, and you are so vulnerable. And I understand that completely, because even for me, after living here for so many years, sometimes when I go to a doctor myself or with my kids, I try to explain and I'm like, help. I hope you really get what I'm trying to say, or I hope I understood what he's trying to tell me. So it's the French medical language can be challenging, and it's the difficulty is like you can't misunderstand, and you don't want to be misunderstood either. So I totally understand why that was a challenge. When you were planning the move, did you budget some money for the relocation, like for the move itself. And was it enough?
I did, and that came from, what costs would be, getting an idea of what costs would be for an apartment and fees that you have to pay associated to the agency that might be kind of overseeing your apartment for its owner, and what yearly fees are associated, moving fees. I used a company where I shipped 7 large boxes.
Yeah.
I can't, arrived with three or 4 suitcases, and then 7 large boxes got shipped. So taking that into consideration and getting an estimate on what that was going to cost. And, getting a bank account, trying to figure out how do you pay all these fees and what does that look like? Because I didn't have a French bank account. You can't really get a French bank account until you live here.
Yeah.
So having to learn about using currency brokers and what services are out there, what does that look like, how do they work, and being able to transfer money from the United States through the currency broker, and to be able to get it here and be able to set up things like with your help, like utilities and internet and
The guarantee.
cable, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then using the service like Guarant Me, which will then look at your financial picture and qualify you to potential landlords, saying that they've looked at your finances and they will guarantee you for X amount of dollars, X amount of euros per month for rent. And you have to pay them a fee.
Yes.
So there's an initial chunk of money that goes out. And I think, you have to consider that and take all of that into consideration when you're moving. Are you going to be able to do that? And that was something, that you helped with, because a lot of that, like, I didn't have to guess at that. I had a pretty good idea of what everything was going to cost. So it made it so much easier to say, okay, this is what I'm going to need. This is how I'm going to get it from point A to point B. And that was helpful. I mean, there's always things that come up that, you don't plan on.
Yeah, like for example, what was it?
Little things, and people laugh at me, but like a portable air conditioner. After my first summer here, it was extremely hot, and I had fans almost in every room that I purchased. But that was a hot summer. So I went and bought a portable air conditioner, and I just vented out my window. And it works perfect. I mean, it's the best investment I made. It was only a couple €100, and it was well worth it. I've used it. I didn't use it as much last summer, but it works really well. That's kind of one of those things you don't think about.
Following up on the budgeting, what do you think the cost of living is compared to the similar level of life back in the United States? So back home and here, do you think the cost of living would be higher here or higher in the United States? All costs included.
Significantly higher in the U.S.
Okay.
I know that just from still, talking to friends, that my monthly expenses, my rent, going out for activities, going out for meals, all of that, I spend significantly less than I would in the States. And I don't have to deal with a car insurance. My health insurance would be ridiculous if I lived in the States, because I retired early, so I'm not old enough for Medicare. So I would be paying out of pocket for my health insurance. And, that alone would be, over $1,000 a month, probably in the States. And here I have my carte vitale. So, I mean, it's just significantly less. And people always think, oh, you live in Paris, so it must be more expensive. Well, it's not. I mean, every day, you have your apartment, that's my biggest expense is rent. I use the public transportation, so I use the metro and the bus. And I have monthly, I load my metro card up. And that's still less than anything I would have spent for transportation, less than I would have spent for gas in a month back in the States. Food, significantly less,
I think it's like 80 euros a month or 85, no? The Navigo card. It's something like that.
Yeah.
So like there's no transportation in the world that is cheaper than per month,
I like both the metro and the bus. And you can go anywhere in Paris and get there a lot quicker than you can on Uber.
What is your favorite part of living in Paris?
Gosh, there's so many.
Name 3.
I like to go and try new restaurants.
Oh yeah. That's a nice hobby.
Just new, try different cuisines and, expand your palate.
Yeah.
And, things that I've tried that I never thought I would and that I really like. And it's a great way to socialize too. In the US, you tend to go and hurry through meals. And here, you've finally gotten able to really appreciate when you go out for lunch or you go out for dinner, it's, hours. And you really have the more social interaction and, it's just a way to really connect.
Yeah.
And it's, the restaurant doesn't come and expect that you're going to be, they aren't trying to kick you out after an hour.
No.
The expectation is like, this is part of our culture.
And it's never about no longer being hungry. It has nothing to do with eating. I believe in France has nothing to do with hunger. You go there because you're expecting to have an amazing experience, eat something new, or eat something good that it's going to be amazing again. But you go for the quality of food, the quality of service. They leave you alone and you can have a conversation for as long as you want to with the person you went out for a meal. But if you go, I love going to eat alone. And if you go to a restaurant alone, you're perfectly fine. There are many people eating alone. So for me, it's a great hobby. Great hobby.
Yeah. It's, and it's amazing because you do meet people that way too.
If you could walk me through like your typical day or a day in life, like how does your day look like in Paris?
Some of that depends on the weather.
Let's make it sunny. Let's pretend
that it's warm and sunny.
It was sunny this morning. So.
Thank gosh. Winter's almost over. I kind of judge when I get up by what season we're in. In the summertime, the spring, summer, and fall, I'm usually up early, like when the sun's coming up. In the wintertime, when it's cold and it's dark until late in the morning, I don't need to be up if I'm not going somewhere. So I kind of like change my schedule a little bit. Just depends on whatever I feel like. I get up and I will sit, relax, and have coffee and check emails and maybe see what the French news says, maybe not. And a lot of times, if I don't have an appointment, if I don't have something specific planned, then I will go out for a walk. My lifestyle has become so much healthier here with the food I'm eating, because I don't have a lot of junk in it. It's just healthier all the way around. And I do probably at least 10,000 steps thereabouts a day. So I go out and I walk and I walk and I see, different areas and different things and take a lot of photos and just wander. I joke and say that even if I got on the metro and got off at the wrong stop or got lost, I'm not really lost because there's always something new to see
Yes.
and explore. Like that's, they call it the flaneur. So, when you just kind of go wander around and see things.
Let me ask you this question. Like, if you were to do it again, what would you do differently?
I would have retired sooner and moved sooner.
Okay.
I think if I was able to, I would have come and spent some time and really looked at the different areas first. I picked a good area to live in, so I don't have any complaints about that. But I think maybe looking at it with a longer term lens in mind.
Okay.
And kind of that way you're going, getting settled, and not moving again in a few years.
So now if you were to give some advice to people considering retiring in Paris, what would be your words of wisdom?
I would say do your research. Do a lot of research. Make sure that, and you have to take things with a grain of salt, and your expectations need to be in line with reality. You can't pick up your life and move your life in the United States or whatever country you're coming from and plunk it down in Paris and expect that it's going to be exactly the same, because it's not. It's a different culture. There are different cultural norms. There are different expectations. It's a completely different way of life. And coming here and expecting you're going to have a huge apartment when that's just not the reality. People live a lot outside. People, the lifestyle is different. And, not having everything that you had in the U.S. And, sometimes there are going to be things that you miss, but there are going to be so many new things that you find and that you love.
Yeah.
So I think keeping that in mind and not having the expectation that you're just moving to another city. You're moving to a whole new life and a whole new culture. And giving yourself some grace that initially the first few months, the first 6 months, even the first year, you were going to have a lot of challenges. And if you were doing it by yourself, hopefully you have some good friends that are going to be able to take that call and talk you off the ledge on a bad day, or you have friends here that are going to help get you through it. But you have to kind of roll with things because it is different. And if you were looking for a new lifestyle and a great quality of life, then, it's worth it. And you have to hang in there, and you have to be patient, and, you have to understand that there are different ways of doing things and bureaucracy, and it's not going to be the way it was in the U.S., but it can be better.
Oh my God, words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was amazing having you here.
Well, thanks for having me. This is, I can't say enough good things about making the move and the change coming here. It's a great place to live, whether it's Paris or anywhere in France. I love Paris. I love the city. And it has so much to offer. And it's just a very calm, yet busy, amazing life. And it's a great change. So,
and every time I see you, you look more and more Parisian. And you look like someone who's really you were natural born Parisian. That's a tell. So yeah, you are a perfect example of someone who came here and embraced the new lifestyle.
You have to be ready to let go of let go of things and, you know, like you said, embrace a whole new lifestyle and
make room
yeah.
for the new. To me, you know, sometimes when I think about this change that it is in people's life to move from United States or any other country to France, it's a little bit the same type of change as when you go to college, because you've lived all your life with mommy and daddy in hometown and life was good, you know, you were fine, and then you're excited to go to college. You go to college, and the first couple of weeks you're like, I hate it here. I have no friends. My roommate is awful, and they make me do. And then in life, you remember college being the best years of your life.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like that with Paris. No, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had a friend help me move here. And the day she left to go back to the U.S. and to her family, I cried the entire day and thought, oh my God, what have I done? It was the dead of winter. It was rainy. It was awful. And it just, it was an adjustment, you know, and it's like, if you can get through those moments and, you know, like, you know, it's not going to last forever. Like you're going to get through it. But yeah. And then you're just like, how could I not live here? Like, why didn't I come here sooner?
What was I doing?
Yeah. I should have lived here like 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, there is time for everything. But I really, and I always am so admirative of people moving to Paris because it's a big change. And surprisingly, we have many single women moving to Paris. And when I asked them, like, what's the main reason why you're moving to Paris? Almost none of them is like, I want to find love or something. No, I want to have fun. I want to make friends. I want to discover things. I don't think I've ever heard, oh, I want to find a true love. No, they're coming to find themselves and they're coming to find fun and you know, fulfillment. So that's yeah.